To our listeners, we are not archaeologists. We do not have all of the facts. And we apologize.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Spooky Sips podcast, the show where we put our love of horror into a podcast and sip some spirits along the way. I'm one of your hosts, Yvette. I'm here with Brianna.
Hey.
And Laura.
Hello.
And guys, we just watched Seven.
Whew. Yeah. All right, so to set you a little picture, essentially this movie takes place in a large metropolitan city, and we've got two cops. We've got our, in quotations, rookie, because he doesn't think he's a rookie, and then our old-timer that's on his way retiring. And he's just going to show him the ropes for a week, but what happens? A serial killer. Basically what happens is it starts off with gluttony, and then greed. And then we start entering into the 7 deadly sins. And these two cops are on the clock to figure out what is going on. And there's a lot of interpersonal stories happening. But basically that's the gist. And that's where this movie goes.
Yeah.
Quintessential mid-90s psychological thriller with pretty good gruesome scenes, I would say.
1995.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask when this movie was made. Because
1995.
I feel like that's about right for New York.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like New York was pretty rough in the 80s. I guess you could insinuate this was New York. Pretty rough in the 80s, going into the 90s.
Yep.
This is about right for them.
Do we know? Is it New York City? Do we know that?
Yeah.
So it is not a designated city, I guess. But it was inspired. So the director of the film, David Fincher, he lived in New York City for a time and he hated it. He hated it. So this was inspired by his just like misery of living in New York City and how he felt like it was just miserable and depressing and terrible.
Okay, so small personal anecdote, but when I was in high school, my dream in life, you know, the really gritty scene when they're in one of the apartments and it's all just dilapidated and the paint is chipping and it's like, you can hear the city squalor. That was my dream in life, was to live in one of these cities. Like, I had this...
You meant in squalor.
I did, but there was like this beautiful picture that I had in my mind of like living in New York in the dirt and the grime. And this movie, I was like, yeah, that's my vibe. That's it.
Love it.
That's it.
I already have messed this up. I retract my statement. It was not the director. It was the writer, who is Andrew Kevin Walker. It was when he was living in New York City.
Oh.
Listen.
Trying to make it as a writer.
All right,
and he hated his time.
apology.
David Fincher, I
He
apologize.
does listen to this podcast.
He does,
So
absolutely.
we apologize.
To our listeners, we are not archaeologists. We do not have all of the facts. And we apologize.
We did dress up as Jurassic Park one year.
We sure did.
That's the closest we got.
So, moving on quickly.
Oh my god. Well, do we just want to talk about the opening? I
Yes.
think we all like stopped and said this, but like very American Horror Story vibe.
Oh.
Just the intro of the movie,
Opening
not even talking
film
about the
credits.
scenes.
Honestly, like, I miss and cherish opening film credits. Especially for a movie like this. I feel that it is part of the movie. And that by not having it, you're like doing a disservice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was so good. It made you feel uneasy
Yes.
from the very beginning. Just the sounds that they used, the way they like filmed it, like a few like other things. Like I feel like from the very beginning, the movie was like, buckle up.
No,
Here
I
we
agree.
go.
Yep.
And that was very purposeful. The opening scene was done to kind of like make you uncomfortable and get you in that vibe.
It worked.
Yeah.
Because I would say, I know this is a horror movie podcast, but I would say this is, to me, not a horror movie.
No.
Fair. Yeah.
Now, it has elements of more grotesque scenes than thrillers typically have. Like, it was darker and had more gore than a lot of thrillers typically did, I feel like.
Absolutely.
But you're right. It was like a very dark thriller.
Yeah.
Not so much a
Agreed.
horror.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely not a horror film, but I still think we deserve to watch it.
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely. So speaking of that, so I have seen this movie before.
Mm-hmm.
It was in 1995. I was 10
Wow.
when it first came out.
Did you watch it at 10?
No. I did not watch it until I was older. But so I have seen this before. Brianna, I think you've seen it once.
Once.
And Yvette, you have not seen it.
So I watched the first 5 minutes of this movie. I was like 7. I've heard of it. I think it's a really good movie, but I don't
7.
like to do any research on movies before I watch them because I think everything should just kind of be a surprise and I come to you. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to grab some dinner, sit down, enjoy a film. And so I sat down and, it braced to the first scene, which is gluttony. And I thought maybe I should just turn it off and go watch something else. So I watched the first maybe 5 minutes and then turned it off.
It's a gruesome scene.
It really is. And there's just something about it that I feel like really gets under your skin. Like, don't get me wrong, I've seen gore.
Yeah.
But there's something almost like intimate because he's in his home at his table. Like there is something that makes your skin just crawl because it's like you're witnessing this moment that has turned from such a mundane everyday thing into just the worst experience of this person's life. And there's so just something very unnerving about that.
Yeah. And I think unlike some of like the next deaths that come in the movie, they show you everything.
Yes.
You go in and you see the crime scene, you see all the plates, you see the bucket of vomit under the table. Like they show you everything. I mean, I kind of like made a note while I was watching the movie, like that makeup department, give them a raise. Yes. Because like the veins that you could see on his body.
I feel like you could smell it. Like obviously you can't, but I feel like
I agree.
They did such a good job with just the look of it that you could just
No, I agree. Yeah. And actually, like, I think this is a good moment for the couple of the movie, Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt, because you see this long timer that's been doing it forever, and then the rookie, again in quotes, because he's not really a rookie, but he is at big city crime.
Yes.
And, Morgan Freeman is just quiet and goes through the scene and isn't very reactive. But then with Brad Pitt's character, he's nothing but reactive because it's disgusting, and you experience it through both of their perspectives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of get that. Yeah.
So seeing it for the first time, what are thoughts? Did you love the movie?
No, I love this movie. Honestly,
later.
Having finished it now, I'm like, even though I had food, how did I stop watching it? Because I honestly, I don't know how I stopped watching it. It was so good.
And the acting in it is just incredible.
I guess, I don't know if either of you know. Was this like earlier work for the main actors, like Morgan Freeman, Brad Pitt, I guess even Gwyneth Paltrow? Like,
I remember Morgan Freeman being in a lot of thrillers in the 90s. Kiss the Girls, I believe. There were others. So I would say for him, not so much, but for Brad Pitt, I'm not sure.
They had all been in things before.
Right.
Okay, but
like, had he been in like a serious, dark and gritty film like this before, I wonder?
I don't know.
Either way, they all nailed it.
Yeah.
No, the acting was actually very, very good.
Okay, so I love that we've brought this up because do you want to know what this movie could have been instead?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so just some other characters that might have been in this movie, some other actors that might have been playing the parts. So Somerset is Morgan Freeman's character.
Yes.
He is the older veteran detective. He was actually named after the writer of the screenplay, I guess. So he had a favorite author who was this popular playwright in the early 1900s. So that's who he's named after.
Okay.
But Somerset initially the writer envisioned William Hurt as the person who plays Somerset. So, if you don't know who William Hurt is, he was in things like A History of Violence, Lost in Space. I think I mostly know him for, he was big in the Marvel and Avengers movies. He's this, like, white, blonde, like, actor that's just not Morgan Freeman at all.
Like the opposite.
But that's who the writer wrote it for, basically, like, envisioning him. But who else was considered for the role? Al Pacino.
Oh my gosh.
He was considered for the role, and do you know who turned down this role?
Who?
Robert Duvall.
Oh my gosh.
Or Gene Hackman.
Oh, I can't imagine.
Fucking
no.
Willy Wonka.
Absolutely
right, that's
not.
a Willy Wonka guy, right? Like, he was maybe...
No, wait, no, it's not.
No, wait, who's Gene Hackman? Oh, wait, I got it wrong. No, that's Gene, somebody else. Oh, God.
Is Wilder a person?
Wait, who's Gene Hackman?
I am sorry. I am laughing. So.
No, wait. God damn it.
No, wait.
I'm sorry.
You know Heartbreakers?
Oh, yeah.
The old man.
Yeah.
That's Gene.
Oh, that's even worse than Willy Wonka.
Detective Willy Wonka.
Guys, so here's the thing you need to know, fans listening to our podcast. I get things wrong a lot, so I apologize.
We've never claimed to be experts.
It's endearing.
I mean, sometimes I read my Wikipedia and I just, take it at face value.
Yes.
Okay.
So that wasn't from Wikipedia, but...
No, it was, but I saw Gene and I thought it was some old white dude. Oh,
okay. Come back and say,
right.
Some white dude was also considered.
Moving along.
So one of the things that I think was interesting about the movie, because, like, as a viewer, seeing it a second time, I noticed things that maybe I didn't the first time.
Oh, yeah.
And someone mentioned while we were watching it, the rain. And I did think that was interesting, that, like, there was rain in every outdoor scene. And I was wondering, like, if that was obviously intentional, because I don't think that...
I don't think it rains that much.
That it rains that much in New York, but, like, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was kind of intentional, but also kind of, they were trying to shoot the movie pretty quickly, because Brad Pitt had other obligations. So they only had 55 days to do it. So the rain was kind of there some days, but then they made it purposeful to kind of just work it into the scene, because they basically were saying the director wanted the streets to seem dirty,
Yeah. And
noisy,
it did that.
polluted, depressing, and it was basically to reflect the moral decay of the population.
And honestly, I feel like it did capture that. Like, it gave that, like, moody vibe. You know?
It was like,
sure.
even all of this rain cannot clean these streets and cannot clean this city. Like, it's still dark and gritty and...
and just depressing and dirty and just awful.
Yeah.
All right, so for a movie like this, I feel like we have to talk about each of the deaths.
Yes.
So we covered gluttony. Now, I'm trying to remember. So next was greed.
Yes.
Now, that one we as viewers did not see quite as much, because we didn't even see the body. We saw photos with the body, but they had already removed that for the viewers.
Yeah.
So, fun fact about greed. And I feel like this is like, you could not write this. You could not make this up. So the actor who played Greed, which really it's funny that they call them, actors who are doing this, because we just see a body, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So he had agreed to be in the movie, but then found out he was going to have to be naked in his scene. So what did he do? He demanded more money.
Oh my god.
The actor who plays Greed is like, no, you better give me more money or I'm not going to do it. And you know what? He got it. He got the more money because...
good for him. Non-speaking role still makes more money.
Yeah.
No, I thought that was really cool, though, because I remember... I feel like once they were sitting in, Detective Brad Pitt's living room, talking about the scene, like, I kind of, like, stopped and made myself question, like, wait, like, have I seen what the crime scene was?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I kind of, like, stopped for a second. I was like, wait, like, what happened with Reed?
Yeah.
You know, like, I kind of, like, had to, like, think back on it. And it's like, you know, it does, like, it forces you to, like, imagine what the scene would be before they even show it to you.
they don't show it, yeah.
Yeah.
But could you imagine having to, and again, hopefully all of our fans have watched it already, but can you imagine cutting off a pound
of your own flesh?
Of your own flesh?
Oh.
No.
Yeah.
So brutal.
No.
Such a brutal, horrific death.
Such a brutal. And
I mean, they all are, but.
Well, no, they all are. And all of them cause you to have this, like, moment with yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Should we take a pause for a second to explain what we have been drinking?
Oh, well, what are we sipping on?
Yes.
Because
What are we
obviously,
sipping on?
if you can't tell, we've been sipping.
We have been sipping. So, Yvette, would you like to tell us about the drinks that we've had tonight?
Yes. Okay. So we started with a cocktail tonight. And I mean, this was almost too easy because we had to start with everyone's favorite drink in the 70s, the 7 and 7.
7 and 7.
And for anyone who I guess hasn't had this drink before, it's just a shot of Seagram's Crown 7 whiskey and 7 Up. That's it.
Pretty tasty.
Yeah.
It was actually pretty good.
It's kind of surprisingly good.
I'm not a huge whiskey person, and actually, I liked it.
Yeah. I have to say, like, I think I've recently come to enjoy whiskey a lot more. And having enjoyed whiskey, I don't think I personally ever reach for a Seagram's bottle.
Right.
It is a little
Fair.
more, you know, lower shelf
fair.
whiskey. But I know I was looking up just like random things about it, and apparently this was actually a huge whiskey at its time.
Oh.
It was, I'm pretty sure it was the first bottle to reach like 1 million cases sold.
Oh.
It was the first brand to hit 100 million cases sold. And by the 80s, thanks to its very successful 7 and 7 campaign, it reached 300 million
Oh my
cases
gosh.
sold.
This is fascinating because it's pretty bad.
Yeah. No, it is actually like an extremely successful whiskey.
Oh my god, I love it.
I also love that I was trying to look up like the history of 7 and 7 just to see if it was like something interesting, and it was literally just someone in their marketing team who was like, we have 7 crowns. What if we teamed up with 7 Up? They have 7.
Genius.
7 and 7.
Genius.
It's perfect. Super well.
Yup.
People loved it. I think it was in a few movies in the 70s.
I feel like I've heard,
you know, like people like
cultural
kind of like mentioned
references.
it. Like, yeah, it was very just like
Yeah.
a cultural thing in the 70s, which led to just being like hugely successful.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I guess the lore behind it is that they were doing like the tastings for it, and the CEO at the time really liked the 7th one that he tried.
Interesting.
Seagram's 7 Crown.
Seven's everywhere.
That's where
Lucky
it got its
7.
name. Yeah. Originally started in Canada. Very big family. Very rich family up there. And then after their grandson with no business experience or education inherited the company.
Nice.
Ran it to the
Classic
ground.
nepotism.
Sold it to an American company, and that's why it is now an American whiskey.
Oh, because I was
Stupid
going to say, I
American.
feel like it's an American thing, but
Yep.
that makes sense.
Yeah,
okay.
so now it's American. I think it's made in like Connecticut or something like
Of
that.
course.
But was Canadian for a very, very long time.
Well, there you
Yeah.
go.
You know?
And then we decided to top that off with the 7 deadly Zens.
I mean, is there a more perfect
No,
wine?
there's. I
Again,
mean, you
go
have
with
to
this.
have that wine with this
It was
movie.
so perfect.
You absolutely have to.
Yeah, so I guess I give you a little history on that one.
Yeah.
So it was basically just like a couple brothers decided to start like a wine company. The 7 Deadly Zens was their very, very first wine.
Oh.
They went, and it was a combination of 7 different Zinfandel vineyards.
cool.
So they
Oh.
kind of sat for a minute and, you know, we're trying to like figure out like, oh, what could we call this? Like, what can we like do with this? They had something I can relate to, which is their Catholic background.
Nice.
And decided to go with 7 Deadly Zins.
Oh my gosh.
So
that's
from there
perfect.
they grew. I think they also have like a 7 Deadly Red Blend. They have a 7 Deadly Cab. So they went on to go do like a bunch of other ones, but the 7 Deadly Zins is their original. delicious.
It's really good. I like a Zin.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm all about, obviously, as you both know, the red wines.
Yes.
But Zinfandels, I feel like it's never my go-to for a red wine, but I don't know why, because it should be. They're it's very good.
It's very good.
Yeah.
And
it's a very good wine.
Not expensive. I think this gets you in the under $20 mark for sure.
Yeah.
And it is very solid.
I mean, so good.
Mm-hmm. And we've had more than enough of it tonight.
We're doing a little bit.
In case anyone couldn't tell,
we're doing a little bit more sipping tonight than we have in our previous podcast. But that's okay.
All right, so let me ask you this. We'll get into the rest of the deaths.
Yes.
But which one stuck with you the most?
Oh.
Because, see, I thought I had mine.
Mm-hmm.
And then I watched it again, and that changed. So, which one is it for you guys?
I think one of, like, the obvious ones is the very end, which we don't have to talk about yet.
Right.
But I think, for me personally, it was the very first one, Gluttony.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I think part of it was the one that they showed you the most of. Because, like, on the one hand, there is, like, the very slight thought of, like, this was kind of a cop-out. They just picked, like, an obese person to be Gluttony. Like, maybe they could have gone with, like, something a little more complex, you know? But they just did such a good job with it, with the special effects. And, like, they brought you into that scene.
No, they did.
Mean, like you said, like, you could smell what was
absolutely
happening. This was the very first one. Like, this drew you in, and it was, like, once you realize that maybe this was a serial killer, it was like, if they're capable of doing that, I don't even want to know what's going to happen for the other ones.
Yeah. I think for me, so because I had seen it such a long time ago and then trying to think about the movie after the fact, I definitely thought about the Gluttony, but I also thought about sloth. For some reason, the sloth gets me.
Oh my God.
And I remembered, like, all of the hanging air
The car air fresheners.
in it, like it's super, super upsetting.
Yeah, I guess for anyone who hasn't watched this, do you want to describe what we see in this? I think it was like the third death.
I think it was the third death.
Yeah.
Do you want to describe what detectives Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman see?
So basically, they go into this apartment and they're searching room by room. So basically, some handprints have been left at a previous crime that lead the detectives to this apartment.
Yep.
So basically, they're almost thinking maybe this is the
guy,
the perpetrator. This is the
because he has a criminal background.
This is the hero of the story, and by hero I mean villain. But so they get to the apartment and they finally get into the room, and there's just this bed with a sheet over it, and you can kind of tell there's maybe a body underneath it. And when they pull back the sheet, they just see this emaciated, like, Skeletor
corpse.
It's a corpse.
It seems to be a corpse. And it's got a hand cut off, but like this beautiful surgical job done, like of cutting off the hand.
Lots of IVs going into him.
And so basically this what you think is a corpse has been just sitting there for like
a year.
Exactly
a year. And there's a picture taken of him every day showing him like slowly starving to death. But then one of the police officers, like, you know, kind of gets down to kind of investigate the guy. And the guy coughs. He's still alive.
Oh my God.
Fun fact, the actor, the guy who is in Scrubs, who is like in this movie but all beefy, like, which was really kind of weird for me to see. His reaction was real. So he did not know that the actor who was playing the almost dead sloth guy was alive or gonna act alive or cough. So when he like jumps back and like freaks out, that was a true reaction.
Wow.
Like that was not acting. He did not know it was gonna happen.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Pretty.
See, I love that. So like for my favorite this go around, I think it was The Lust. And by favorite, I mean just because it stuck with me the most, especially the second time I saw it. So the interesting thing about this scene is that we don't really see her, the victim.
No.
The one that has died. We maybe see her legs in the air, and that's about it. But we see him, so it was a prostitute, so we see the John that she was with.
Sex worker.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Sex worker. Yeah. So we see the John that she was with. So this guy, Leland Orso, is one of my like favorite actors.
Oh.
Little known thing, because you'll hear this a lot. I first saw him on Law and Order SVU, which is the most amazing show.
Yes.
And has some of my favorite horror actors in small parts. But he was in this one. But he is the guy that plays the John. And like, this guy is pretty big into method acting. And so what he did to prepare for his part is, one, he didn't sleep for days. Like, before he went into the interrogation room. And then what he also did is he had this breathing technique where he would saturate his oxygen by the way that he breathed to cause himself to hyperventilate.
Oh.
And he like learned as a person how to do that.
And you can feel like
you could feel it. And I
Yeah,
think
for sure.
that was why when I watched this again, like, because I've now seen him in more things over time, like I recognized him and I was like, oh, I love this guy. And just his part stuck with me because you think it's so fucked up to have to do the things that they were being asked to do to themselves. Like taking a pound of flesh or the poor corpse in the bed. But to have to inflict that on someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so true.
And that was kind of unique to his crime until the last one. Like,
right.
Yeah.
and that just stuck with me.
Oh, I know. That acting is so good.
Yep.
And yeah, like he stayed up for days, but he was only intending to stay up for one day. So basically, okay, so his scene was scheduled for Monday morning. So he basically, when he woke up on Sunday morning, he was like, I'm not going to go to bed because I'm going to get all like,
Sleep
jittery.
deprived.
Yeah.
But then they said, oh, sorry, shooting rescheduling. You're not going to go till Tuesday. But he was like, well, I'm going to mess it up if I go to bed now. So he stayed up another night, but then they were like, oh, sorry, we have to push you back to later in the day.
Oh my gosh.
So he was like totally just, jittery and...
Oh my! I mean, you could see
could
it.
see
Like he
it.
was sweaty, like clammy. I feel like he was like you could
Just
see
the way
it.
that his voice
Yeah.
even was,
Mm-hmm.
you really could feel it.
Yeah, no, he absolutely crushed it. I can't even imagine. I feel like after one day of like not even sleeping kind of well, I
Yeah.
can't function. I can't imagine after 3 days of very little sleep.
Yeah.
I'm shocked he could even say the right lines.
Yeah.
By the end of it.
That was actually, so in high school, my friend and I were taking an AP psychology class, and we had to come up with some sort of experiment or thesis or something. So what we did is we just decided to stay up for 48 hours.
Oh god.
Oh, I remember
we-
you guys filmed it.
Yeah, we filmed it. And
We have a video cassette of this somewhere around
I
in
need to
Mom and Dad's
find
basement. It's wild.
So we decided to do all of these psychological experiments on each other, where we would like do these reaction times.
Yep.
Where we'd have to like kind of like run around a ruler. I can't even remember how we came
I
up
know.
with these.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got real loopy.
Yeah.
Real loopy.
Okay, another one of the deaths that I feel like, at least I've noticed, has gotten ignored is Pride.
Yes.
Because it's not as gruesome in the movie. And so I think like people forget about it. But when you think about it,
The
it's like
psychology of it.
super forked.
Mhm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
basically this girl, this beautiful woman, her face is mutilated. They say something about her nose being gone, I feel like. And
missing, and
we just see it in bandages. And then in her hands, she has a phone glued and a bottle of sleeping pills glued. And I guess basically the idea is that the guy was like, you can call for help, but you will be disfigured forever, or you can take these pills and die. Like, that is a real Saw movie moment to like choose, because a lot of the others didn't get to choose their death. Like, they were forced by gun, they were not, but this one she chose. And that's pretty intense when you think about it.
That is true. That is, I think, probably the most messed up is someone coming to you and basically being like, choose your death.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because we all think we'll know what we'll choose until the moment comes down to it. I would 100% kill myself. Like,
I think?
Yeah.
Yes. And not because of the beauty thing, but just because, like, of that trauma inflicted. Like, it's, we see in these movies that we watch all the time, like, the people that make it out.
Yeah.
But do they ever really?
No.
Do they ever really? Like, no one ever gives that enough merit and credit. And I really think that, like, I would understand the want to just end it.
See, I feel like, just, you know, if I was randomly, I guess, going through this, like, if you heard your options are, you know, you can be disfigured but call for help, it'd be like, okay, I guess at least that way I'd get to maybe live.
Right.
So
but if your
like,
whole life was on the way you looked, like if from the moment you went through puberty, all you were was your looks. Yeah. That was how you made your money, how you got your attention, how you got your love.
Yeah. But I feel like that almost makes it worse, is that she was willing, obviously, to, like, give that up and call for help. And it was like, okay, yeah, like, I'll be disfigured and I'll call for help. And then he killed her anyway.
I know.
It's just so dark.
It's
like,
so dark.
Movie is so dark.
So dark. I love it.
Yeah, it just, like, it makes you think. It's just, really, really upsetting.
Yeah.
So, we were talking earlier about how we feel like this is not actually a horror movie.
Right.
Yeah.
So, speaking of it being a dark movie, it is technically called a neo-noir.
Oh.
So that is the genre of this movie, which is basically just dark movie. And it basically just indicates sinister stories that are often presented in a shadowy cinematographic. Movie way.
Yes. You know what, though? I feel like I like that because really, like, I like thrillers. Especially, like, I like reading thrillers, but I like watching them. And this isn't quite that. Like, it goes farther than that, but it's not a horror. Like, so I like that genre.
I mean, that describes it, I think, the best.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think we've talked about the first 5 deaths. And after the first 5 deaths, you get this, I think, pretty great scene of, you know, real life bad person Kevin Spacey coming in to the police station following detectives Morgan Stanley and Brad Pitt. And they're walking in, and you see this guy just being like, detective. Detective. You see, like, traces of blood on, like, the back of his shirt.
It's not Morgan Stanley.
No, it's not.
Is it obvious that I worked in finance?
Wait, who's Morgan Stanley?
That's a big bank.
Is that Willy Wonka?
That's a big bank.
Who is a real world nemesis?
Oh, shit.
I'm sorry.
My God, I'm so happy you got that.
Focus.
I heard it, but I was just going to breeze past it.
So anyways.
Oh my God. That's just my finance background.
But yes.
I can't see Morgan.
So we have Morgan
Stanley.
We have Morgan Stanley and Brad Pitt.
I'm sorry, Morgan Freeman.
Oh,
but yes.
Shit.
So they're there. And we
Kevin Spacey.
Yes.
Anyway, Kevin Spacey, real
John
life
Doe.
bad guy, comes in and he says, I wrote it down because I was like, this is just great. And he just says, detective, you're looking for me.
Oh.
So
Chilling.
So good.
Could you imagine anyone else pulling off that character?
No.
I mean, he did nail it.
Would you
Leland or so, but other than that,
would you
maybe.
like to know who
Yes.
did not become that
Willy
character?
Wonka.
He's still
Gene
Morgan
what's his name?
Stanley himself.
Gene Hackman.
Gene Hackman. Okay. Who did not take that role but was considered was Ned Beatty. I don't know who that is.
Oh, I couldn't see him doing it.
Val Kilmer.
Oh my gosh, no. Maybe.
But my favorite is Michael Stipe.
Oh, what?
The lead singer of REM.
No.
He was like...
I mean, the bald head,
Yeah.
I guess.
He was maybe going to be John Doe.
Oh my gosh.
But didn't do it.
No, actually, I feel like Kevin Spacey was perfect.
He did.
Like,
and I know he's kind of fallen out of the graces of the
but
public.
I mean, if you think about at the time when it came out, like, he was major. So you have to remember historically, like...
Yeah. Oh, and he was so good in that. And it just made me think of the other movie that he's in where it's so good. What's the movie where he's like puts himself on death row?
Oh.
What is that movie?
Yes.
But he didn't...
I know what you're talking about. We'll look it up for our viewers.
Okay. Yeah. We'll look it up for you later. Brianna, insert where we find it.
Yes.
Okay.
Watching it for the first time, did you have any concept of what... Because you know there's 2 more sins.
Yes.
In your mind, you know, okay, and he says there's 2 more bodies. Did you have any thought of, like, what that would be?
I feel like I don't know. I love spoiling stuff. I feel like I always love to try to figure it out. I did think it was probably Gwyneth Paltrow's character Tracy.
Okay.
Because it was, he said 2 and I was like, yeah, she's pregnant. It could be 2. Like, my mind did kind of go that it was probably like he was going for them as the last 2.
Okay. Yeah.
As opposed to, I forget, John Doe.
Yeah.
And Tracy as being like the last 2.
Well, and like, what I think is fascinating is the moment, and again, major spoilers.
Oh my gosh, yes. No, if you haven't watched this, just stop.
Just
stop
Stop,
listening.
watch it.
Go watch it, and then
crawl
come
out
back.
of the hole you've been living in.
But here's what I want to talk about. The scene where, we're at the final, and Morgan Freeman sees what is in the box.
Oh my gosh.
And Brad Pitt is with John Doe. And John Doe is just fucking with him at this point, just antagonizing him and trying to, like, get him to know. And we know Morgan Freeman has run up to him, and Brad Pitt now, like, realizes what's going on. And just the acting in this man is so phenomenal that, like, it takes your breath away, but you just see it in his face.
Oh, you do.
And
I mean, his beautiful face does not hurt the process.
Yes.
Not at all.
He was named Sexiest Man Alive the year that this movie came out.
I mean, honestly, he is and was and will forever be.
And
so,
deserves
Brad,
that.
Absolutely.
if you're listening,
Brad, if you would like a guest appearance on our show,
anytime, my friend,
Mr. Pitt.
anytime,
Any
Mr.
movie.
Pitt.
yes.
But he's got the gun. And there's that moment where, as an audience, you're saying, is he going to do it? Would I do it? Because you can't not ask.
Yep.
And I think that's such a fascinating moment for discussion. Like, would you have killed him?
I mean, and again, he did such a good job because you can see it in his eyes, like the pain of, like, you're realizing what he did, but this is also, like, your job.
Yes.
You know, to, like, bring justice. You know, like, you think about it, and, like, and it does, like, it goes on for, like, a minute of him, like, deciding what to do. And, like, as we were watching it, I thought to myself, like, if I somehow found myself in this crazy situation, I don't think there's any way I would have the self-control to be like, don't shoot this guy.
You wouldn't have the
I
self-control?
would have killed him.
There's no way. Like, you have a gun in your hand and you realize
I would have killed him.
Killed not only the love of your life,
but your child.
child.
I would have killed him.
You know, it's so funny because I think I wouldn't.
Oh.
No, you never know, right? You never
No, of
know
course,
until
of
you're in that
course.
situation. But I think, you know, and this was going to be a question I was going to ask you guys later, but, like, would you think about what of the 7 deadly sins are your, you know, faults? I think wrath is low for me. I really don't think I have much of that. I have a lot of the others. Don't you worry. But, like, I think that I wouldn't. I think I'd be absolutely devastated, but I can't see myself doing it.
Wrath is very high for me. Wrath is one of my highest.
Mm-hmm.
I would actually say envy is my highest, if we're being honest.
Okay.
Envy is my highest, and then wrath.
Ooh,
Okay, so what's yours? What's your
I don't know if I have a top one. I feel like envy might be in my top. I feel like, I honestly don't know. Maybe some pride. Probably some gluttony.
Right.
At least the amount of wine we consumed tonight.
That was gluttonous.
I think for me, it's kind of a tie between gluttony and sloth. I'm real lazy. I'm real lazy. If I could just sit in front of the TV for an entire 24 hours, I would totally do it.
Yeah.
I just think for me, like, that moment of knowing everything that man has taken from you, and then coupled with the fact that, like, you know what the justice system is, and you know he won't get justice.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, like, and then, like, living the rest of your life with, I think I would always regret.
Yeah.
I don't think I could help myself.
Yeah.
Like, I think even if I thought I wouldn't be the kind of person to do it, I would have never been able to help myself.
Yeah.
And
I think
feel
I
like
would have.
they took that, that pregnant pause in the
Yes.
movie where you just, again, like, you
Yes.
see it in his eyes.
His eyes,
You
yeah.
see
Yep.
it, John Doe. They take, I think, just the right amount of time.
Yes, I agree.
For this scene to go through, that it makes, like, it forces you
Right.
to think about what you would do in that situation.
Yep.
And I think that's part of what makes the ending so good.
I agree.
So do you feel like the ending was a crucial part of what makes this movie wonderful?
Yes.
mean, yeah, 100%.
Would you be surprised to know that the production company didn't want it?
No, I wouldn't be surprised
Yes.
that they didn't.
New Line
Actually-
Cinemas did not. So
It's
what
too
they
dark.
did, they actually, so when they had, so Walker, he's the person who kind of wrote the, the screenplay. He, side fun fact, he actually sent it to the person who kind of wrote Jurassic Park. Not obviously Jurassic Park, like
right.
Steven
No,
Spielberg,
right.
but who like adapted it.
Yeah.
He sent it to that guy, and that guy responded to him. He said, "I think you need professional help."
Oh my God.
And at first,
Oh my
Walker
gosh.
thought he meant like, as a screenwriter. And then
No,
realized,
he meant, like,
he meant
therapy.
psychology.
Like, personally.
Yeah. So, so he, when he wrote it, the production company actually, when they sent it to then the director, they messed up. They said, that's too harsh. No one will want the head in the box. That people cannot take that. They rewrote it, but then they sent the wrong script
Nice.
to the director. And the reason why the director, so I guess the director had Fincher had a bad experience making his last movie, Alien 3, which I have not seen.
No.
But because he had such a bad experience, he was refusing to read any scripts.
Anything.
But he ended up reading this and he loved it. And part of why he loved it was the ending.
Yeah.
But then, so he agreed to do it because of the ending. And they were like, well,
Okay.
all right, if you agree to be the director, we'll keep the ending. But then the studio kind of reneged on that. And they were like,
Yeah.
you know what? No, we can't do it. And Brad Pitt refused. He said, I will
Good.
not be in this movie
Yes.
unless you keep the ending.
Okay, so
Yes.
Brad, when you come on the podcast,
Yes.
we'd
You
like
will.
to talk about this. So
Yes.
we will have a second part
Yeah.
once Brad Pitt comes on. Just leaving that open.
Yes.
Please come be a guest. on
Okay,
our
so
podcast.
here's what I want to ask, though.
Mhm.
It's really easy to watch this movie from a layperson's perspective. Just me and Yvette sitting here bumming.
Yes.
But we are not professionals. However, on this podcast, we do have a professional, Dr. Laura,
Yes.
psychology.
Tis
Yes,
I.
and it is not just that AP psychology class, actual psychologist.
I am
But
a
in the
school
shit.
room.
psychologist.
So what I want to know is, I have a multifaceted question for
Yes.
you. One, we have to remember, and we cannot discredit, that this movie came out in 1995. So the way that they talk about things is likely very different.
A little different, yeah.
Right? Than they would if it came out today. So they call the guy a nutbag and crazy and
Yes.
lots of other colorful adjectives.
Yes.
But as a professional, like, how did you view John Doe?
I have a lot of thoughts on
All right,
John Doe.
we're ready. Here we
Tell
go.
us.
So, in doing just a little bit of research behind this movie, I've seen some theories on what he should be diagnosed with. The biggest one I have seen is that he should be diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder.
Okay, I've heard of that one.
I do have my pocket DSM.
Thank you for bringing that.
So, I do agree with that as a diagnosis.
Okay.
Just because he has some classic signs. So some of the things that he has is that he does not conform to social norms.
Agreed.
So he repeatedly performs acts that violate social norms. You know, murdering people in
That's one of
horrific
them.
ways, right?
Yeah.
He also is very irritable and aggressive, and you can see that
You
in
can.
so many. Like
Yeah.
even in the scene where he's driving in the back of the cop car, and he just gets like really kind of pissed about little things. So he definitely has that. And then also this just lack of remorse.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
He's not
100%.
sorry. He's
No,
not sorry
he's
about
not. He's
any of the
not.
things he's doing to these victims. In fact, he feels very
Justified.
justified in them. So he does meet the criteria for that diagnosis. So I will,
Okay,
Say
we'll
he
give
has
him
that.
that. We'll throw him that bone.
but I think more so than anything,
Mhm.
I actually think he just has narcissistic personality disorder.
Oh, shit. Let's
And
talk
here's-
about that.
Here's why I think that. And he kind of goes back again in the car where he's saying, like, he doesn't feel like he's better than anyone. He doesn't feel like he's God. But he's bullshitting.
But
here.
he does,
He
right?
does.
Yeah. So, yeah, I feel like we've all heard someone at least be called a narcissist.
Yes.
Yes.
So can you tell us, what does
What
that
is-
actually mean?
That in the technical sense.
So
Yeah.
he basically meets almost every single criteria.
all right.
So the first one is that he has a grandiose sense of self-importance.
Okay.
So he basically feels like, I have figured out what is wrong with the world these days, and so I'm going to fix it
Check.
and teach you all a lesson.
Yep.
He's preoccupied with fantasies of unlimited success, power. Got that,
Check.
right?
Yep.
He basically feels like he is in control and
Yes.
he can control others around him. He believes that he's special
And
unique and can only be understood by or should associate with other high status people.
Oh my
He basically
gosh.
feels like the cops are beneath
Yes.
him. He plays them for
Everyone
fools.
is.
Yeah.
So he's got that.
Definitely check.
He requires excessive admiration. And
Yes.
he does these to get attention.
does.
But not necessarily like he needs everyone to know his name.
No, but it's almost like he needs attention historically.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
in the books.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and he says, like,
He
he's
says
like, you
it.
should be thinking. People are going to remember you.
No, it's true.
Yeah.
He has a sense of entitlement.
Yeah, that's
Check.
obvious.
I am reading just point by point DSM.
Yeah.
He is interpersonally exploitative, so he takes advantage of others to
Well,
his own ends.
I would say yes after the sloth
Maybe he
scene.
does that.
He lacks empathy.
Yeah. Yeah.
He often is envious of others. He is
He is.
envy. He gets
He
himself
is.
killed for envy. Or believes that others are envious of him. And then he's arrogant.
Wow.
And that is of all 9
To a T.
category of narcissistic personality
No, it
disorder,
is.
he has
Yeah.
them all.
To a
Yep.
T.
So that is my primary diagnosis.
Well done,
with a
doctor.
secondary of antisocial personality disorder.
Okay.
Yeah.
I buy it.
Based on our limited knowledge, he checks all boxes.
Yup.
So I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So there it is.
Okay. Here on Spooky Sips podcast, we don't give stars, we give sips. Out of 5. So ladies, now this isn't our traditional horror, but that's okay. How many sips out of 5 would you give this movie?
I give this a full glass. I know it's not horror, but I'm down in the glass like
my
a thick pour.
gosh,
I
a
love this
mega
movie.
pint.
This is a
mega pint.
5 out of 5.
This is a 5
Mega
out of 5.
pint of wine.
This is
Okay.
actually like I've poured myself a second. It's a 10 out of 5. I really
Whoa.
love this movie.
I'm gonna give this one a 4. And here's why. Because I feel like I love it. But I'm saving my 5-sipper for, like, the one.
A horror.
Yeah, and, like, the epitome of horror. And for me, this isn't it, but it's an amazing movie. I would watch it many times, but yeah, it's a 4-sipper.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I feel right in the middle of you two. I was thinking 4.5.
Oh,
Because
4.5 sips.
Like, is this the perfect film for me? No. But it is so good, and you definitely have to watch it.
Absolutely.
It is a must-watch.
It's a must-watch.
Almost a 5. 4.5 sips for me.
So I do have some more fun facts if
Laura,
you want to go
I was
back
just
and
going to
cut in.
ask you. I was
Tell
going to
us.
say, do we have any facts that we must hit on?
We absolutely do. So, but
Let's hear it.
previously we were talking about some possible other characters who could have been in
Yes.
roles.
Yes.
So one of the things where we were talking about this movie is such a dark, just
Yep.
kind of not depressing, but just like poignantly dark,
Gritty.
movie.
Yeah.
Dark and gritty.
Guillermo del Toro was considered but he said he really wanted to watch the movie,
I
and
see.
he wasn't dark enough.
It
He
would have
was
been
like,
a different vibe.
He goes,
Oh, it
I'm,
would've been
he goes, I'm too much of a
completely
romantic. I would.
He is a
It would be too
romantic.
happy of a
No,
movie.
it's
Like I need this to be
true.
dark and gritty.
I love that.
So he did not do that.
Oh, yeah.
Good
that
call,
would've been a
Guillermo. Good
very,
call.
very
I
different movie.
love
Yes.
Guillermo
If
del
he-
Toro.
No,
del Toro,
honestly,
so much.
but no, it would have been,
Yeah.
he was
Yeah.
right in making that call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, he kept the integrity of the movie by that.
So, speaking of just the dark twistiness of this movie, I have one more fact to share about the ending. So, we already kind of talked about how the studio didn't want it to be the head in the box. They actually then tried out with a test audience.
Oh, yeah.
The way the movie was supposed to end, and I want to hear your thoughts on if you agree this would have been better.
Oh my gosh, okay.
Or if you think it was good how it ended. So, basically, the movie ends where Mills shoots John Doe.
Right.
And then Somerset has this beautiful
Right.
speech about, I forget. It's not that life's great, but it's that
Ernest
it's worth fighting
Hemingway.
for.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's worth fighting for. So the original ending was Mills shoots John Doe, and the screen goes black. And it is black and silent for 10 seconds. And then the movie's done.
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
So they tested this out for an audience, and this was the way originally it was intended to go. But some jackass in the movie theater, as soon as he shoots them, they turned on the lights. So the audience was like, no, I didn't like it.
they
Because they
needed
couldn't sit there in their misery and their, just their thoughts on what was going on. So do you appreciate? So the studio or the director agreed to soften it by having this, Hemingway quote. What do you think? Do you
know what? I'm gonna say something. I have a different take. I don't think it softened it, and here's why. In movies that we watch, a lot of times we surpass and forget the small horrors and the small injustices, and he was done. Somerset was done. And in the end, when he says, well, where will you be? And he says, I'll be around. There is something haunting about the fact that he's not getting his retirement. He has decided to stay. And actually, I feel like that doesn't soften it for me. It gives closure, maybe.
Okay.
So I actually like the way that it ends.
What do you
Yeah.
think?
No, yeah, I feel like as you were saying that, I was already so mad that they didn't show you what was in the box. That I think had they ended it just with that, like he shoots him, like the movie ends, I think I would have been too angry at the film.
Yeah,
For
I can
doing
see
that to me. For
Okay.
giving me like absolutely no closure, no like way to like end it, no way to like process what happened. And I think having those extra like 30 seconds of the film
Gave you time.
It gave you a little bit more time where it was like, I'm still mad. You didn't show me what was in the box, but they still ended it dark.
Totally.
They still ended it, I think, the right way and like left you in the right mood at the end of it. So I'm actually kind of happy that they added it. Yeah.
See, I feel like this is becoming a theme in our podcast where like the two of you have an opinion
Yep.
and I'm a little bit different. I don't know if it's just my little dark and twisty side coming out, I think that would have been so much better. Just have him shoot him and just done. You don't get some inspirational quote at the end. And I do like appreciate what Brianna you're saying and about like what you're thinking too, but I almost feel like I want it to be a bit more depressing.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like I like the original how it was supposed to end.
Yeah. I mean, it is not meant to be a happy movie, so I can see the merits of just ending it there and having it be like, life is dark, this is the end. Yeah.
Okay, so a few other fun facts. Denzel Washington and Sylvester Stallone they turned down the role of Mills. So
good.
It wouldn't have been Brad Pitt.
Good, because that would have been terrible.
Sylvester Stallone?
No,
can you imagine?
Absolutely not.
Denzel.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Christina Applegate.
No.
She turned down the role of Tracy.
I think that Gwyneth was good in it.
Gwyneth was good in it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Goop us up.
Scoop us up. I mean, I've got a few other fun facts, but I want to just like have ones that are entertaining.
Yeah.
So Brad Pitt's injury.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
So, you know how like he's in the movie, and then all of a sudden he's like chasing the guy.
Yeah.
And he his hand is messed. That was not intended.
Oh no.
He actually hurt his hand in the chase scene in the movie. He like was chasing me, slipped on the hood of a car, ended up putting his hand through a car window and like sliced some tendons and had to have stitches. They then went back and kind of like there's some scenes where me knowing you can kind of tell that Brad Pitt's arm is hidden.
See.
But yeah, so that was not intentional. They had to just figure out a way because they only had him for 55 days.
Right.
So they're like, we got to just write it into the script.
Oh my gosh.
Because like, I did notice that his hand was in his shirt.
Right.
I think for like a part of it, but I thought that was like, oh man, like he's injured.
Right.
You see the blood. Like he's just trying to like stop the blood from going. So
Wow.
oh my gosh, way to commit, Brad. Way to commit.
There was also supposed to be a second movie.
Oh.
In the series, or not in the series, but like they were going to make it a sequel, I guess.
How?
Yeah, like what?
So it was going to be called 8. E-I number 8.
No.
H-T.
They're taking
Like
the Fast and the Furious approach.
Absolutely.
Like there's not 8 sense.
Yeah, 8
Guys,
what?
the movie was made. It is called Solace. It is a 2015 movie with Anthony Hopkins. It is a movie basically about like a psychic doctor and where the FBI are searching for a serial killer.
Okay, we will be watching that. Stay tuned.
So the reason why it's no longer like it's not associated with 7 and its name is Solace and not 8 is because Fincher, the director, and then Morgan Freeman, they were like absolutely not.
not.
The movie was
Good
perfect.
call.
We're not gonna sign on. We're not gonna do it. But yeah, that is a
so
movie.
we will be watching that.
But also very good call because
Very good call.
There's no way
No.
to do a sequel to this movie.
So would you like some context a little bit about what was going on in 1995 when
Yes.
this movie came out?
Please tell us.
So this movie came out in, like I said, 1995. The top 5 movies of the time Batman Forever, Apollo 13,
Okay.
Oh.
Toy Story,
Nice.
Pocahontas,
Oh.
and Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls.
So this was a real
divergence.
variant.
Yeah, what a
real
time.
divergence.
Real divergence.
Interesting.
Bill Clinton was president at the time.
Oh, Bill.
The Oklahoma City bombings happened that year.
Damn.
Oh
my god, you weren't even born yet.
I know, yeah, you
was
probably don't know what we're
gross.
talking
I
about.
was not born yet.
That's depressing to my old soul.
I mean, I was 6.
I
I was a baby.
Young.
This was also came out the same year that O.J. Simpson had his trial and not guilty verdict.
Nice.
Oh,
if the glove
yes.
does not fit,
You
must acquit.
Coolio's Gangsta Paradise was the number 1
yes,
song.
living in a gangsta paradise.
Also, the Macarena went viral that year.
Hey,
Viral
Macarena.
before viral, right?
Yeah.
Right?
And Amazon sold its first book.
Jeffrey Bezos.
So,
Hey,
Book.com was just
Jeffrey, if you want to be our next sponsor.
So that was kind of the culture and the vibe of what was going on.
Interesting. Very different than this movie then.
Yeah, for
absolutely.
sure.
That's pretty much all of the
done.
Really fun facts I have to tell you.
Those are some fun facts.
Yeah. So next time on Spooky Sips, we're going to be getting really spooky and watching Sinister. So get sippin' and get watching.
Thanks for listening to Spooky Sips. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, subscribe, and leave a rating or review wherever you're listening. To stay up to date on all the spooky things we're up to, don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at SpookySips_podcast.